Examining the doctor's recommendations. To get a fuller picture, I checked the doctor's website, where she lists her top protein sources. All 9 recommendations are animal-based, no plant-based foods make the cut. For example, she includes 175 grams of 80% lean ground beef, which has 444 calories, and 2.3 grams of leucine and 160 grams of lamb chops, which can range from 400 to 600 calories. If high-calorie foods are fine in her recommendations, why exclude plant-based options like tofu, tempeh, or mycoprotein, which deliver 2.5 grams of leucine for fewer calories? Tempeh, for instance, offers more protein and leucine than lean beef for significantly fewer calories. If we judged foods purely on their numbers, tempeh would outshine beef in her framework. Let's play devil's advocate. The doctor might argue that plant-based proteins like textured vegetable protein or seitan are processed or less bioavailable, making them less effective for muscle growth. Let's tackle those points. First, processing isn't inherently bad. Just as whey is processed from dairy to isolate protein, soy, peas, or wheat can be processed similarly. The idea that processed foods are automatically unhealthy is a fallacy, an appeal to natural that doesn't hold up. Whey, soy protein, and pea protein are all processed, yet they're nutritionally sound. Comparing them to soda or candy bars is misleading. Now, let's address bioavailability, the idea that plant proteins might not be as effective for muscle growth due to lower amino acid absorption. Recent studies challenge this. For example, a 2024 randomized controlled trial with older adults, around 70 years old, compared a 10-day omnivorous diet, 60% animal protein, 40% plant protein, to a 10-day vegan diet, 100% plant protein from sources like soy, legumes, and nuts. Both diets provided 1.2 to 1.3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. Despite the omnivorous diet having slightly more leucine, there was no difference in muscle protein synthesis rates. The researchers concluded that a well-planned vegan diet with varied plant protein sources supports muscle growth just as effectively. Another study from 2021 looked at young men, average age 26, following high-protein omnivorous or vegan diets for 12 weeks, both with resistance training. The omnivorous group used whey protein, while the vegan group used soy protein isolate. Both groups consumed about 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram daily, and there were no differences in muscle size or strength. A 2023 study with young men and women, average age 24, compared high-protein omnivorous and vegan diets over 10 weeks of intense resistance training. The vegan group used mycoprotein, a fungi-based protein, while the omnivorous group used milk protein. Despite slightly lower protein intake in the vegan group, there were no significant differences in muscle size, strength, or protein synthesis, except for a surprising edge in incline bench strength for the vegans. These studies show that plant-based proteins, when consumed in adequate amounts, support muscle growth and strength just as well as animal proteins. The doctor's emphasis on leucine and bioavailability doesn't align with this evidence, especially when looking at whole foods and mixed meals rather than isolated proteins. The doctor's focus on leucine stems from older research, like a 2012 rat study suggesting that leucine triggers muscle protein synthesis more effectively in animal proteins like whey or egg compared to soy or wheat. But newer research, especially with whole foods, paints a different picture. A 2024 review noted that leucine levels in the blood don't fully explain muscle protein synthesis outcomes, particularly in younger adults. For example, one study found that mycoprotein, despite slower leucine absorption due to its whole food matrix, actually led to greater muscle protein synthesis than milk protein isolate. This suggests other factors beyond leucine are at play. The bigger issue with the doctor's approach is that it overlooks the long-term health benefits of plant-based proteins. Decades of research show that swapping animal protein, especially red meat, for plant protein lowers the risk of chronic diseases and premature death. For example, a recent study following health professionals for 30 years found that diets higher in plant protein and lower in animal protein were linked to reduced cardiovascular disease risk. If you're getting enough protein, around 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, plant-based sources are not only effective for muscle growth, but also come with health benefits like better aging and lower disease risk. To sum up, while animal proteins can be good sources of leucine and protein, they're not inherently superior. Plant-based options like tofu, tempeh, and mycoprotein can match them in leucine and protein content with fewer calories, and they perform just as well in clinical trials for muscle growth. A balanced meal approach, combining various plant foods, easily meets protein and leucine needs without excessive calories. Plus, plant proteins offer health benefits that animal proteins don't. The doctor's framework feels narrow, focusing too much on leucine and isolated foods while ignoring the bigger picture. I'd love to have an open conversation with her to dive deeper into this. Maybe we could sort it out over a protein-packed meal, plant-based or otherwise. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.